Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and welcome to the first ever Saltil's Journeys in Fandom video blog review thing. Not really thought of a name for it yet, so we'll just call it the review of the Doctor Who Christmas episode Twice Upon Time. Now, Doctor Who Christmas episodes are a bit of a mixed bag. You either get very mediocre festive efforts, or you get kind of dramatic end of era, end of series efforts. So we've seen the regeneration of Tennant at Christmas stroke New Year, regeneration of Matt Smith, and now the regeneration of Peter Capaldi. I suppose with Twice Upon a Time we also had the extra magic of it being a multi-Doctor episode. Now, from memory, I think this was only the second multi-Doctor episode in the new era of New Who. That's if you discount the Children in Need episode with the Fifth Doctor. So not only were we getting a regeneration, not only was it Christmas, but we're also getting a multi-Doctor episode. So my hopes were actually very high for this. And, as it turned out, the episode wasn't that bad. Kind of up there with, not quite, but near enough, top 3, top 2 Christmas episodes. I think it falls just behind the Tennant leaving two-part of the first part of that, and probably vies with Tennant's first episode in terms of Christmas number one, Christmas episode-ness, but it certainly was one of the better Christmas episodes they've done over the last couple of years. So, I think we need to talk about the First Doctor. Now, the First Doctor was played, as we all know, by David Bradley as opposed to William Hartnell. It was nice to see that David brought his own unique take to the character, rather than just be a William Hartnell clone. He was very good at making the character his own, and that really shone through. I took the liberty of watching 10th Planet the day before Christmas Day, just to remind myself about the whole story, because it's, I have to admit, not one I've watched very often. So it was nice to see how they blended that episode into the modern day episode with the merging of William Hartnell, David Bradley's faces. But it was also good to see Polly and Ben getting a little bit of a cameo, as well as the fact that they actually filmed some of the later scenes of the 10th Planet on a purpose-built set. I think I saw some photos where they actually had the Arctic base control room set all built, but it wasn't actually used in the episode, so it'd be nice to see if that turns up on the DVD release in the future. William Hartnell's Doctor was very unique, and like I say, David Bradley pulled it off and knocked it completely out of the park. The dialogue was good. The comedy kind of unique dialogue you get between multiple Doctors worked very well again, with the First Doctor playing very well off the 12th Doctor and vice versa. I do think some of the jokes and the kind of sexist remarks, I say sexist, the remarks from the era from the First Doctor weren't really needed. Yes, it was funny to begin with, but some of the later ones really fell a bit flat, and to be honest, like I say, they weren't needed. We all know the First Doctor was born out of the 1960s, we all know that, but the actual character is an alien, and really it didn't need re-emphasising the fact that times have changed and the viewers have changed. It could have been a couple of throwaway lines here and there, and really didn't need that much more emphasis on this kind of the male-female aspect of it. I thought that was a bit weak. But apart from that, like I say, the interaction between the two Doctors was brilliant, and it was really nice to see the perspective of the First Doctor, who was starting out effectively on his journey through his regenerations, versus the 12th Doctor, who had been there and done that. So, the plot. The plot was an interesting one. We didn't get the usual Doctor, human, whatever, in peril. We kind of got that mystery about who was the villain, what were these people, what did they want. That was quite obvious from the outset when they first encountered the captain pulled out of time, sort of, etc., etc. But it was nice to see that it wasn't a standard run-of-the-mill, out-of-the-mold Doctor Who episode, in the sense that you didn't really have a villain. And that was actually quite refreshing, especially for a Regeneration episode. Essentially, it was really the journey and the story of the two Doctors. Primarily the 12th Doctor, but also the First Doctor's journey as they kind of went from resenting a regeneration, from rejecting a regeneration. You kind of followed them through until they actually got to the point where they accepted their fate and accepted their future. The testimony it was an interesting concept, and you could see where we as a viewer were confused, as was both Doctors, primarily the 12th Doctor but also the First Doctor, about what the testimony wanted with the captain that was pulled out of time, but also other people. So that kept me as a viewer interested up to the point when it was revealed that they weren't actually there to do any harm. There was no nefarious plan. And like I say, it was an interesting concept. I think it would have been nice for the two Doctors to team together to face an enemy. Traditionally, in a multi-Doctor episode, there is an enemy to fight, and it takes the multiple Doctors to come together to defeat it. So it would have been nice to actually see the First Doctor and the 12th Doctor have to actually get involved and get together and bring their kind of personalities together to solve a problem. But like I say, it was a different twist. The introduction of Bill was interesting. I know from reports and interviews, Stephen Moffat wasn't intending for her to be in this episode. She was a nice introduction. I think, looking at it with hindsight, was she really needed? Don't get me wrong, I like Bill. I think she was great. I think actually she was probably the best Capaldi companion he's had. But her story kind of ran its course. You got the feeling at the end of the last series that was Bill, that was it. It was all done nicely, full stopped. And to have her return again, and we assume she's dead. Well, technically she is dead, but she's not dead, if you know what I mean. Is she with the pilot? Is she not with the pilot? Did she die afterward? But technically she is dead. And it was kind of just sort of maybe wheeling her out for one more unnecessary trip. I don't know. It might need another rewatch to actually reconcile my feelings on that. She was a great addition to the cast, but it would have been nice to go with a bit of a different spin. A lot of people thought that point when she was kind of revealed in the Chamber of the Dead thing, a lot of people thought it was going to be Susan, and they were going to wheel out, I forget the actress name who plays Susan in the 50th anniversary documentary, to play her again. That would have been really nice, but missed opportunity. Probably didn't have the time to explain it to the casual fan in the time they had in that episode. I don't know. Either way, it was nice to see Bill and subsequently Nardole, but were they really needed? I don't know. I suppose the negative parts of the plot for me, there weren't many. I think I've touched on the dialogue and the unnecessary jokes. I think the kind of jump from time-frozen Earth to Skaro, wherever it was, to encounter the Dalek that no one remembered, it was a bit pointless. When we were kind of speculating at home who was going to be up in the tower. I thought it could be Davros, it could have been Rassilon, because Rassilon's still out there somewhere. But as it was, it turned out to be the Dalek, Rusty. Yeah, it is Rusty. From that random second Capaldi's episode where he was poking around inside his head. Yeah, I don't know. Was it Moffat's way of bringing in the Daleks one more time, one last hurrah? Again, don't know. Wasn't required, and it kind of slowed down the pace a bit of the plot, because you were getting them to the heart of the mystery. You had the relationships building between the characters, and then all of a sudden you were dragged away from the Arctic to this planet to talk to a Dalek that no one really bothered about. I'm sure they could have done it a different way, but nevertheless it brought on the big reveal, and the big reveal was that these were all memories of people that have died across the centuries, and they were plucking people at the moment of death to retrieve their memories. In a sense, it's reflecting Moffat's, or maybe it's reflecting Moffat's story from way, way back, from Christopher Eccleston, the Doctor Dances, where he says, "This time, Rose, everybody lives." So essentially, one of his parting gifts to the series is, in theory, everybody lives. In theory, the Doctor and other characters can now interact with anyone, because this whole agency, this whole idea about putting people's memories into record is now out there in canon, so they can bring people back when they like. It's a good concept. Hopefully they're not going to use it again, because it really dampens down anyone who does die. Not that anyone really dies in the series, but it really kind of dampens down that, knowing that they could be brought back with a really simple kind of reset button-esque kind of thing. As for people returning, Clara. They couldn't resist, could they? Wheeling her back out for one more episode. Now, don't get me wrong, I used to quite like Clara. In the podcast of Journeys to Fandom Was Old, I used to go out my way to say how great Clara was. And then she just took over the show, got very self-important, and really just no. And to wheel her out one more time, was it needed? Again, was it a Moffatism to get her back? I'm not quite sure. The green screen CGI thing was awful. Obviously, she must have filmed the scenes separately, so they kind of stuck her on the screen. She's now back in the Doctor's head, so he remembers her, which dampens down her death again. That's twice now that she had a really good death, and now they got rid of her. And then they brought her back, and then they got rid of her again. I don't know. I'll let them off. Because it was Capaldi's final episode. Can't deny that. So really, I'll let them off this time. But hopefully, that is the last time we see Clara. Please. As for the other plot developments, I was really interested to see the concept of the first Doctor seeing what his future incarnations were actually going to do and actually achieve, and the way the testimony had spun it into a negative about him being the Doctor of War, and the way that the first Doctor reacted to that. It's a real shame they didn't actually build on that a bit more. It kind of touched on it but didn't really go anywhere with it, in the sense that the first Doctor being frightened and not wanting to regenerate because he doesn't want to turn into some of the people he'd seen in that kind of memory block, that memory chain. It would have been good for a little bit of a twist where the 12th Doctor then has to persuade the first Doctor to really regenerate, because otherwise just time is just going to unfold and it's not going to work and things like that. It was a missed opportunity, I think, because the concept of a quite self-righteous character like the first Doctor seeing some of the things he's going to have to do and some of the decisions he's going to have to make, that would have been made for a really nice kind of juxtaposition. Big word, I know. Great juxtaposition. I think that's my word of the day. Against the 12th Doctor, who'd had enough and just wanted to effectively end it all. He didn't want to do it anymore. It would have made for a nice sort of different aspect to a regeneration than what we've normally seen from the regenerations in the New Who era. I think the last 15 minutes of the episode were brilliant. I think running from the Armistice Day scene where the Doctor, or both Doctors, got to witness that was brilliantly done. You could see it coming, obviously Christmas Day, you could see the significance of World War One and all that, and it was really nicely shot. So kudos to the director and the team involved in that, and brilliantly orchestrated alongside the music and the atmosphere, and it really hit home this concept that even in the darkest hour in wartime, people can still be kind to each other. And that was obviously a theme that came at the end with the regeneration. I suppose also from the Armistice Day scene and what led up to it, that what really marked the change in thought for the Doctor, I thought, because originally he was tired, he didn't want to go on anymore, he didn't want to regenerate, he wanted that to end. But to go back and make the effort to save the captain, rather than just take him back to where he should be, he took him back and he moved him a couple of hours, really showed that despite everything he'd seen, despite everything that had been said, the Doctor still saved someone. He still went out of his way to save one person, one human being, one life. And that really emphasised for me what the Doctor is all about, that he's seen enough, he's heard enough, he's done enough, he's seen all this bad things happen, but yet he still makes time to save one more person. And I think that's kind of the reset for him. That's what he needed to step forward with his regeneration. Yes, Bill was involved in that, and the memories and sort of pushing him in the right direction, and his interaction with his former self actually reminding him about who he was and where he was going. But I think saving that one more person was enough to make the Doctor decide, you know what, I will regenerate and we will keep moving forward. Now, the regeneration speech. I think the regeneration speech is the thing now. Matt Smith had his speech. Tennant didn't really have a speech, but he had his world tour. Eccleston had a little bit of a speech, but I suppose back then it wasn't really the thing that it was now. So Capaldi was always going to get a speech. And I suppose with Moffat leaving, Moffat was always going to write a speech. I thought it was brilliant. I thought there was enough said in that speech that emphasised what the character of the Capaldi's 12th Doctor meant to people, with a couple of sly little snippets in there for Stephen Moffat himself and the way he is about fandom and the way he's about the show and about the Doctor and the fact that he is a fan himself. It did go on a little bit longer, and there are a little bit too many one-liners. I say one-liners, not comedy one-liners, I mean sound bites, shall we say. You kind of lost the meaning of the message slightly. I thought Matt Smith's leaving speech was better constructed and it had a better purpose to the message, but really for Capaldi's Doctor, the 12th Doctor, you understood what he wanted to say, and you understood the gravitas of the regeneration, not because of you knew what was coming after him, but just the journey he's been on. Oh, the regeneration itself was brilliant. Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, I love her already. I'm so excited for Jodie and the 13th Doctor. It's just brilliant to see her on screen. It was just that moment, I think, when the regeneration had happened and the ring just dropped off her hand and just bounced on the floor. I thought that was done perfectly. You could have ended it there for me. That was spot on. I thought the first person view was brilliant as she took in her new appearance. The one line was spot on again. It's great to see the northern accent's going to be used. Can't beat a northern Doctor for me. Brilliant. And then the whole explosion of the TARDIS. A little bit frustrated about that, because it's been done before with the exploding TARDIS, the crashing TARDIS. It's been twice before, but I suppose we know we're going to get a new TARDIS. We know we're going to get a new set. If you follow the Twitter account for BBC, you've seen them dismantling the set, so they're going to rebuild a new one. So you knew they were going to completely wipe that TARDIS out. It was a complete step change from the episode we've been watching. Really fast, really punchy, and with the Doctor ejected from her TARDIS, you kind of think, well, that sets you up for the new series. God knows where the new series is going to be, what time frame. It's obviously going to be on Earth, but where it's going to be, who knows? Is she going to have a TARDIS? Is she going to be a bit like the third Doctor and be restricted to Earth for a bit? Who knows? I think that's what was so good about that cliffhanger, is she's been ejected, spat out and left hanging there until autumn 2018. So it was a great start for the 13th Doctor and a really good send-off for the 12th. So yeah, I was happy with that Christmas episode. I was happy with the send-off they gave the 12th Doctor. Capaldi, he's been a great servant to the show. He's been unlucky with some of the scripts and some of the episodes he's got, but you can't deny he was an awesome Doctor. In contrast to the people that have come before him, he's completely different, and that makes it great for me. Jodie and the 13th Doctor, Chris Chibnall, completely fresh start. Who knows what we're going to get? Excuse the pun. Who knows what we're going to get in the future? All I can say is Stephen Moffat, love him or hate him, he set the bar really high. Peter Capaldi set it even higher. So I look forward to see what's coming in 2018. Thank you very much. Cheerio for now.